Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Breadcrumbs Project. And we're doing a series right now supporting my book, the Latin America, and figuring out the real story of what happened to America and our our story of of the Americas. I'm an American. I'm from the United States of America, born in Texas, raised around the world, but mostly Louisiana and Spain. That's where I would say I'm from, but absolutely happy and comfortable in Spain. A great place to live and to be. So, this is the book that I wrote and have published and is available on Amazon. There should be a copy of the link in the description section. I'm doing some work here that I didn't get a chance to do before the show. And here we are. Yes, I am in Spain. And yes, it is very cold here now where I am. And no, we don't have, for the most part, centralized heating. Heating is a bit of a premium here, so you dress warmly, which I have done. So today we are going to get into the maps. Yes, the maps. No, maps are over there. I've got to change something. Hold on, guys. Get to watch productions be made on the fly. So put this over here, and then this over there, and now if I point to it, I'll never get this right. So, anyways, we're going to be talking about the maps today. And yesterday we talked about the pottery shards, and you can go to yesterday's video if you're catching up on this by date in the live section of my YouTube channel. And I'm also reposting them as videos. And this piece right here. So these are Celtic burials, just to recap. How can you tell they're Celtic burials? Because Celtic people had one signature um, in their burials that's unique to them, and it's here in northern Spain and throughout Great Britain. So we know this for sure, and that's that these guys are weather worn on the outside, and the glazing is perfect on the inside. This pot is very unique because this is the rim, the upper rim, like it has some kind of a lid, if you can see. There, that's a better angle. And the inside of the pot and the top of the pot, the glazing is perfect. And on the outside, it is absolutely weather worn. And that's all of my pieces of pottery, except one, which is modern. And this is porcelain. And then we have the Roman shards. And they exhibit the same thing, weather worn on the outside and clean glazing on the inside. Now, this one is weather worn, but not as much. Okay. So this is Roman Samian ware, and these guys that are completely weather worn are older than the Roman Samian ware. So this kind of got me to thinking, and not only that, let me get my screen correct. Not only that, but the town where I live is called Muxia. Very special town. It's at the end of La Ruta Jacobea, and the La Ruta Jacobea is Jacob's route, and it's the precursor to the very famous Camino de Santiago. So um, I'm a big fan of the Camino de Santiago. I've seen the effects that it has had on lives and people, and absolutely. Oh, and I'm in the chat now. Sorry, guys. All right. So Kim is in the chat as she always is, and she is going to Puerto Rico tonight, and we'll be back next week. So she will be offline and unavailable. So uh, so this Camino de Santiago, the La Ruta Jacobea, it's very old, it's very sacred, it's very important to the people that are called. It has amazing effect on people. So something that let me see if I can do this. Yeah, I'll keep that there. All right. Something that I knew when I got here and was able to learn a little more about and understand a little more was the name had changed for Mushia. It used to be Mugia, and this sign is really important because it states, and this sign was at the entrance of the the city for a long, long time, and it was um, well established. So this was the entrance of back then Mugia, and it states here, "Final de la Ruta Jacobea," and and paisajes pintorescos. So beautiful views, but it's the end of La Ruta Jacobea, Jacob's route, and the name had changed. Now it's Muxia. They say that they gave it the Galician name, and Mugia was the Spanish Castilian Spanish name for the town. And I found that kind of interesting. And they say that this name derives from monks, the word monks, and so that got me thinking a lot. Uh, what if the town had other names in the past? And I kind of heard rumblings from some of the old folks that there were other names of the town. And I wondered if there were existing maps where I could find these names. And so that got me on an interesting goose chase that led to the publication of this book. So, um, and I have all my maps actually uploaded here. So this is a wee bit unprofessional, but this is an easier way for me to tell the story of of Mushia, and then ultimately the where the Latins went, where the Romans went, and how Latin America got the name Latin America. So this is one of the maps of the area, and this is going to be the key right here. This name Finisterra, and I'll put it on a bigger screen so you can see better, especially those of you looking via phone. And I am actually going to make it a lot bigger. So this is one of the first maps I found, and it was interesting to me because the name Finisterra and currently modern Mushia and modern Spain has it as Finisterre. Let me zoom out, and this also will help you guys. And now it's called Fistera. So this is the area that we're looking at. And to give you reference, here's Santiago de Compostela, beautiful town, gorgeous town. And as we move along west, northwest, we get Muxia. Oops, how can I get the name there without it going? We have Muxia, which is the end of La Ruta Jacobea. And then we have Fistera. And this guy right here is the name that cracked the code for me. So we'll go back to our map. And you can see that this really isn't a good representation of what we were looking at of this area here. All right. So we have this, and then we pop over to this, and it just doesn't have a strong feeling. And certain things that are really interesting about this is, first of all, it is now Finisterre and not Fistera, and Muxia is Monguia, and then A Coruña is just Coruña, and the Enye is suspect. That's not the way we do it now, but that's fine. And most of these communities, actually all these communities, still exist, but some of the names have been changed to protect who? Why would cities change names? Why? So this got me interested, and this map uh, is said to be um, medieval, and I could agree to that. I could agree. That looks pretty medieval. And notice also that all of these towns have churches. So each and every town has a church. That's what demarks the town, the name and the church. Same for Monguia here. We have actually three churches in the area. We have our sanctuary, which is at the end of the tip. And this is Monguia C. And so this is a very interesting map as well. So this is, I would say, Monguia C would be Monguia Cape, Monguia. We have the Santuario Señora Nuestra Barca sanctuary of Our Lady of the Boat, our church, Santa Maria, and then in the entrance of the town, as you come into the town, there's a monastery with a very famous and big church called Moraime, and that becomes very interesting. So note that all these towns, you don't see any roads, but you do see churches. And there is shipping happening, and this is the style of the ship in those times. Big box sales. So then I got interested in this name, and I went looking for other maps because that's the beauty of the internet. You can do that. And I came across this one, Cabo Finisterre and not Finisterre. So this has changed names a couple times. And also in this map, which you cannot see. Why can't we see this map? Oh, the link broke. I got to refresh the page. Um, Santiago de Compostela is not reflected. You don't see it. So, and by the way, this is my canvas. So this is where I do all my work on my books, all my publishing. And those are the shards. So on this map, Santiago is right here, which is pretty much where it should be. So, that works out good. All right. And so this one, which is, again, I would say medieval by the looks of it. And then Mushia's name is Mujia, Mujia. And no one knew that. That's something that I found. I talked to a lot of townspeople. They have not seen this, didn't know that. And so this is new news to everybody, okay? This is forgotten history being remembered. And that's what I'm doing here. So, Mujia, Cabo Finisterra with the A, and then look at A Coruña, La Coruña. Here, it's La Coruna. Coruna, two N's, not the Enye. And it looks like two words put together. And then I looked at Cabo Finisterra, and we know from just history that Finisterra is Latin for end of land, and we just now know as Fister. And then as I started seeing Finisterra, and there's clear as day, Finis, end, end of, terra, land, not the end of the world, but the end of the land. And what makes it that is if you're traveling caravanning along the coast, which is how most people traveled back then. So you could get some seafood maybe, and always have access to shipping to towns that are port towns. So a lot of transactions were done um, walking along with your donkey or your oxen along the coastal routes, and they are ancient. You were loath to go inland because as you went inland, things got a little more savage. So a lot of commerce was done at the coast, on the coast, where a captain would come in with goods and wares and sell them to somebody that would warehouse them in the in a coastal town, and then people that were tradesmen, uh, uh, sellers going town to town to sell their goods, would come to the market town along the coast, buy what he could, and then go sell all that he could. And it's interesting because in those small villages, especially my small village in the Basque region, it's an old village. It even has a very old smelter and made an ironworks, and it used a water wheel. Very 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 interesting. They would buy stuff and then go to towns and sell it, and sometimes it would take a while to sell everything. So in our town, everybody has the same dishes just about. It's changed now, but back then everybody had the same forks, the same knives. So if you went to a friend's house to eat, you'd be eating off basically the same silverware and plates that you had at home because everybody was buying these things from the same person at the same time, basically, or over time. So that is super interesting. And when you come to this area, you, uh, as you're walking along, you have to make a decision if you're going to go to the tip or make a turn or go inland to pick up the road, the coastal roads, and going port to port. So there isn't a lot here um, as far as towns go. So there really wasn't much action going on. I think people probably cut through somewhere and made to The, which is a pretty big and an old city, as is Corcubion, a very wealthy city from ancient trades. So there isn't a lot of port action in these other villages. And then here's Finisterra, end of the land, and now called Finisterra. So first of all, not very accurate, not bad, not very accurate, but the names have changed, and I really wasn't blown away by this um, as I was going along. And I didn't look at it then as I look at it now that someone was trying to hide something. So one of the famous things that happens is whenever you've done something wrong and you start to get a bad name, you change your name or you change towns or you do something. So these towns were changing names actively. And then, to make a long story short, all of this is documented in the book. Okay. All of this is documented in Latin America with maps. So then I run across this map, and all of these names are Latin. All of these town names are Latin names of one way or another. And I've done the translate. On tomorrow's show, we're going to break out the Google Translator and and begin to translate some of these names because gets very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. These old maps tell a story. And where am I getting these maps from? I'm getting them from a very famous collection, and this is the map we were just looking at. This is David Rumsey. David Rumsey was a cartographer, a map maker, did very well at it, and created and bought a lot of old maps and created the David Rumsey map collection. And really, no one that I can see in the world is picking up on the story that I'm picking up on because no one has really had to. Everybody just buys these things or looks at them and keeps them as art and takes the date that they have as 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 uh, God, word escapes me, as doctrine, as is. So we're putting this map date at 1716. The map maker lived from 1646 to 1720. And the map is La Coronde. Actually, we weren't looking at this. This is a new one we're looking at, but it has the same shape and definition as this one, La Corona. But this one is French, and we know it's French because it's called L'Espagne. and that's how the French refer to Spain as Espagne, Espagne. And so I see Capo de Finisterre and Mongi, the name Mongi. So we have the name Mongia, we have the name Mugia, and now we have Mongi. And I found that just interesting, interesting. And then I went to go look at La Corona, and here it's La Corogne. And I went, what in the wide, wide world of sports is this? What is going on here? How do you just change a name like that in all of these? But this is way off. And then if you look at it, La Couronne, that's the crown. That's the crown. Ne. And you could even say new crown. And so you go look at this other map, and Coruna. What is Corun crown? Corona? It wasn't making any sense. So I got I got to looking and digging in, and let me open up another map. Sorry, guys. And this is what happens with live shows. It can go everywhere, and all at once. Where are my? Let's see. All right, we'll go here. So do I want to go there? No, I'm gonna have to go to back to these maps because we're not ready to have that revealed just yet. And then this is another map that we had looked at already. And it has Coruña with the Ñ. So Coruña has gone through many changes. And then I dug way deeper and I found this map. It has Capo Finisterre, perfect Latin, end of the road. And I'm going to put this on the big screen so y'all can see it much better. JD Vance is on his third name change. I did not know that. Kim says in the chat, this is a pattern being seen and investigated by many now. How the elites keep changing their family names and individual names. Some currently very public people have been found to have two or more name changes in their background. JD Vance is actually on his third name change. We'll have to look into that. All right. So then I go look for my town's name, and I can zoom in here nicely, and it's Magia. And that in Latin is magic. It could be Mugia, but as you look at it better and better, you can see that that is an A, and it's a well hidden A. A cartographer wouldn't make that mistake unless they were trying to hide something. And these maps are huge, guys. And it's a zoom in. I'm going to show you the original map. And then Corun na, and not la, and Corun na, clearly Latin for new crown. And a lot of these names are two names combined, like Finisterra, to make one city name. Corun na, new crown, and then Mushia's name is Magia. This has to be older, way older, because nobody knows these names. And there are not many towns. Uh, Mushia and the areas are not populated. Most of these towns still exist in one form or another. But all of these being in Latin told me that this map was made by the Romans. This is not a modern map by a long shot. So let me go to the collections. I believe I have it pulled up. No, I don't. But I do have one prior. And this is kind of a smoking gun, okay? This is from the collection. The map is significantly large. It's in an atlas. It's in a book in an atlas, in a protected collection, probably in a university or elite person's collection. And it is, again, L'Espagne. This is a a um, a French reissue of an original copper plate map. And one of the ways that you know this, that I know it now, is that you have several different ways to measure distance. And one of the dead giveaways here, miles romains. So this goes back to the Romans. We have the French. I don't know who Louis Guessos is, um, nor this. I don't speak French. I do speak and read Spanish. But this says it's from Paris and 1827. Notice the way that they're doing the cartography and the writing, and they've etched this into an existing copper plate. Because if you go and look at how they're doing the writing here, it's very roundy, it's uh, very different from the brute style here. So I have no problem in saying that the cartographer got a older map and has um, reissued it and given it the date that they issued it, which is 1827. And the person that's supposedly authored it lived from 1786 to 1832. 1827, okay? 1827. We saw a 1600 map that had Finisterre there, Coruña with the Ñ, and Monguia. Now let's go to this area and zoom in. And we don't find any of those names. Okay? In 1827, this was Finisterre. All of this is ancient Latin. All of this is ancient Latin. Antibrum portunum. Basically, that interprets to loose cord, loose rope, to be observed. Prius Celticum. Don't have to go very hard on that one, guys. Prius, previous Celticum, previous Celtic, previously Celtic. This is one of two maps where I found the Celts named in the Latin language. Okay? Then, where my city is, Muxia, there is something that says Tamara. And I have tons of women that I know here in Spain. Not tons, but many. They're called Tamara. It's a very, very popular name in Spain. And it's only named here. And through a person who studied ancient Greek and ancient Latin, she could confirm everything that I was saying, and she pronounced everything so beautifully, perfectly, versus the crap pronunciation that I put on these things. So, um, Damara is actually ancient Greek saying the sea, and basically saying this is the sea. Damara, the Mara, sea, and to be interpreted as saying this is the sea you were looking for. This is the legend. Why? Because it has this grandi mirium. And in Latin, that means a grand vision, an impressive sight, something to behold. Okay? And that's my original finds. The something to behold is the stuff that I found, which is all of these. Okay? This is the glass, Roman, Byzantium, not Byzantium, sorry, Roman, Phoenician, or even Minoan has glass. This is hand blown and hand done. Okay, this is not out of a machine or anything modern. And of course, we have these, which are these colors inverted. So this is what the sailors saw when they crossed Mushia back then, was hundreds of thousands of inverted jars of different shapes and different colors. Even the Roman Samian ware. So these inverted jars covered, absolutely covered, sorry, I had to cough, um, the area. And so one of the things that really struck me on this, not only the name and really solidifying my research, but then I saw that Mushia was just an island where currently it is a peninsula. Okay? It is a peninsula. So the island was created by the Romans because there's a kilometer marker zero. Actually, it's right over here. The real kilometer marker zero is right here. And now it was mile marker zero. It was mile marque zero. Then it was mile marker zero when Spain was doing the mile. And then it became the kilometer zero when everybody converted to kilometers. So um, this is the church. This is the sanctuary up here. The sanctuary up here. Santa Maria, the church right here. And the kilometer zero marker is actually right here. And then the other church is Moraime. That's actually um, a chapel. We have a chapel and then a church. So we have four religious institutions. But this is the monastery and church of Moraime, and it has an amazing natural spring that's just always giving water. So there's an amazing aquifer here. Now, the interesting thing, and this is the last bit because we've gone way over the half hour that I tried to keep this to, is the name Moraime. And that in Latin, mori me. Mori me. Mori, die, me. Me. I go to die. So this is how it worked, guys. I'll pull it all together. A person would get to that point where they were no longer useful in the village, in the Celtic village, and they determined it was their time to go. So I don't think many people died of natural causes back in the day. And when they determined it was their time to go, they had their funerary urn ready and their worry stone, their soul stone with them. And you wouldn't have to worry about transporting a dead body to be incinerated here. And I kind of thought about that, the inconvenience of bringing a dead body over here. And so they didn't even want to inconvenience their villagers in that way. So everybody would come over here for the ritual. I would imagine that they have quite the party. And then the person who was to die would take a poison, would die, verified dead, and then he'd be cremated here on the spot. And then this works out perfectly if this was an island back then, because then they would take a boat over here to the island, and that made it super sacred. An island that pointed directly north and was a place of burial for so many people. So many that the Romans deemed it a grand vision. So that's the importance of Moraime and Grandi Mirium. Moraime is not even identified here. So um, yeah, the this is when the Latins were just getting here. Okay, they hadn't established a lot of cities or a lot of locations, but they did have a presence here. All the names are in Latin, and we have the dead giveaway here. Coronium. Now it's not corona, it's coronium. And coronium in Latin is law of the crown. Law of the crown. So there's a crown here, and it's the law. Brigantium is law of the brigadier general. And by the way, A Coruña, as acknowledged, it's very powerful. It is very powerful, Kim. Yes. A Coruña acknowledges that their previous name was Briganlium before becoming Corona. And they said Briganlium is their Celtic name, which is not true. Brigantium is law of the brigadier general. And the big name for Acaruna back then, or Acaruña now, is Magnus Portus. Magnus Portus, the um, the Great Port, and that doesn't need translation for anybody at all. Anybody grab that. So all of these are Roman Latin. None of the modern names are here. So there's no way this map is from 1827. Not a chance. Not a chance. Okay? So someone got a hold of an ancient Roman copper plate and reprinted this. And Oceanus Atlanticus. And listen, making a copper plate is an expensive proposition. So in 1827, you're not going to be making a useless copper plate that has no bearing on 1827 town names. You're just not going to do that. But if you can get an old Roman copper plate with all of this detail, look at that detail, the mountains and the streams, all of it in great, great detail. Okay. And and best I can tell is this Aquae Origines is the name of Santiago. I think that is the city of Santiago. We're going to have to do a closer check to that. And for me, it really does not matter. But what does strike me is the level of details of the map of the mountain ranges and the details of the ports and the the waterways and all of the detail of the coast. Because you go look at the quote um, map in the 1600s and it's nothing like this. So the Latins were here, the Romans were here. I don't see signs of invasion here. None of these have a warring name except Brigantium, uh, and Coronium. To me, doesn't strike me as as invasion. But then having Tamara and Grandimirium named Roman Latin means that they appreciated this land and previous Celtic, saying this was previously Celtic. So I don't see invasion here, but I do see colonization. I do see colonization. So the Celtic people are far older than we take for granted. The Romans were here a lot earlier than we take for granted and have been told in modern experience. And then we're going to take all of this knowledge and go back over to Latin America and see what happens. But we'll pick up on this yellow map tomorrow and keep with the maps on tomorrow's episode. All right, thank y'all so much. Yes, Kim, this is absolutely bittersweet, and the process that it took for me to remember these. Moraime, Moraime. And the church, by the way, does not have a regular orientation as a regular church would, and doesn't have any alignment to these buildings. All right, have a safe trip to Puerto Rico, Kim. And yeah, if you can catch up on the replays, it'll be great because I'm unloading a great story here. Thank you all very, very much. And we will see you tomorrow. And Kim, safe journey.